the mayonnaise jar, and the coffee. When things in your life just seem too much to handle, when 24 hours in a day are not enough, remember the mayonnaise jar and the coffee. A professor stood before his philosophy class and he had some items in front of him. When the class began, without saying a word, he picked up a large empty mayonnaise jar and proceeded to fill it with golf balls. He then asked the students if the jar was full. They agreed that it was. So the professor then picked up a box of pebbles and poured them into the jar. He shook the jar lightly. The pebbles rolled into the open areas between the golf balls. He then asked the students again if the jar was full. They again agreed it was. The professor next picked up a box of sand and poured it into the jar. Of course, the sand filled up everything else. He asked once more, was the jar full? The students responded with a unanimous yes. The professor then produced 2 cups of coffee from under the table and poured the entire contents into the jar, effectively filling the empty space between the sand. The students laughed. Now, said the professor as the laughter subsided, I want you to recognize that this jar represents your life. The golf balls are the important things: family, your children, your health, your friends, and your favorite passions. Things that if everything else was lost and only they remained, your life would still be full. The pebbles are the other things that matter, like your job, your house, and your car. And the sand is everything else, the small stuff. If you put the sand into the jar first, he continued, there is no room for pebbles or the golf balls. The same goes for life. If you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, you'll never have room for things in your life that are important. Pay attention to the things that are critical to your happiness. Play with your children. Take care of the golf balls first. The things that really matter. Set your priorities. The rest is just sand. One of the students raised a hand and inquired what the coffee represented. The professor smiled. I'm glad you asked. It just goes to show no matter how full your life may seem, there's always room for a couple of cups of coffee with friends.
You are listening to Faza Guru.